So we didn't give you any, we didn't give you any background. We didn't give you any topics. We gave you no questions. You're coming in completely cold.
First
Okay.
question: are you afraid?
Are you scared?
Um, oh, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable. I love to talk, so.
Three, two, one. Kevin.
What's up?
I can barely see you. You're camouflaged into the wall today.
Hey.
It's good to see you. Still in Cincinnati, still in Ohio. We got a special guest in the house on the Zoom.
Yes, we do.
Actually. Is this the first time we've ever had a guest on Zoom? Is that possible?
No, it's not.
No. See, it's not possible. So, but it's sorry, Michelle, you're not the first, but you are a very special guest, and we're very excited to have you. Born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela, Michelle Puller is a creative and passionate social entrepreneur, author, keynote speaker, fear facer, and branding strategist. She's the founder of Hello Fears, a social movement that has reached over 70 million people worldwide. And she has done speaking engagements at places like Facebook, ESPN, Netflix, TEDx, Microsoft, Toyota, and a lot more. She is the author of a book. It's right behind her over her shoulder. That's not a Zoom background. That's a real background. And it's called Hello Fears, How to Crush Your Comfort Zone and Become Who You're Meant to Be. She did all sorts of TV appearances. She was on the Today Show, CNN, BuzzFeed, Fox News, Rachel Ray, everywhere you've seen her. She's been there. And we're here excited to talk to her about her 8 years old project, 100 Days Without Fear, and how Kevin and I can get out of our comfort zone. Welcome to Front and Center, Michelle Puller. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
This is where we put the music in.
Oh, we already played the music.
We already played the music, actually.
Maybe applause. Insert applause here.
Yeah, insert applause.
Some cheers. You know, I bring somebody always to my talks with me to cheer and like applause after my videos.
Really?
Wow.
A personal cheer section?
Yeah, because listen, I'm on stage. I just delivered like this amazing talk. I put a video. It's really emotional, and at the end, some audiences don't clap. And that's really sad. And I need that to keep going, right? The encouragement. So I always bring one person with me, like my assistant, my designer, my mom I brought to my last speech, or and I'm like, you have to clap after each one of my videos, because if one person claps, then the whole room claps. And then they feel much better after. They feel like, oh, we clap, we laugh, we danced, but we need encouragement. So
yeah, you need somebody to get them going.
This is genius, Michelle. Yeah. Honestly, of all the things, right off the top, you have great advice here. You need someone to start the clap. I am one guy. Again, I don't know if you're looking for someone, if you're hiring for this job, but I've been known to start a clap very often when there's a moment in a presentation, or if I'm at a conference. If there's something that's worth clapping, I'm super happy to be the first person to get that clap going, and then everyone there takes, they're lemmings, they follow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it takes courage to be the first one to clap. Like it's not easy.
Are they afraid? You think? They're afraid? Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to trust.
Afraid of expressing themselves.
Yeah. So Michelle, obviously, for those that aren't familiar with you, you went to SVA, and that's where you and I met a million years ago. You just said it was 8 years ago. And so your project, 100 Days Without Fear, you tackled all of your fears and had a ton of success, and then now turned that success into a career and speaking engagements and conferences and a book. Are you afraid of anything now? Have you conquered all of your fears?
I have to be honest. And at this point, I have one fear that I never thought that I could have. And I never even believed that was a fear. And it's the fear of success. Have you ever experienced that? Fear of success?
I have experienced some things with success that I don't know if I would describe as fear as much as like an emotional changing of the guard, if I could describe it that way. It's like, I think for a second, I think you work your whole life to try to achieve something. And then when you think it's going to change you and make you happy, we're about to get real therapy real quick. I do think that once I did achieve it, it made me feel bad, sad, scared, afraid, even a little bit of that it didn't necessarily change the way I felt. in the way
Mhm.
that I hoped it would. So are you afraid of success, or are you afraid of what success has done to your brain, I guess?
I think it's how it changes life. Like if
Mm,
sometimes we are already happy and we don't even know it, and we want more and more and more, and then you kind of miss what you had in the
mm,
past.
yeah.
Sort of like that. Like in my case, after the project, after facing 100 of my fears, I became a motivational speaker, a keynote speaker. I started getting hired at all these amazing companies, traveling all over the world. That was before becoming a mom in 2021. It was like my best years of my life. I did it with my husband. So it was great because we were traveling together. So all these engagements, so it was never just me. So we were like basically getting to know the entire world, mostly the US, but also outside.
Sure.
And then the pandemic came, things change. You want to adapt. You want to have more than one source of income just in case something happens again. Because as you can imagine, the pandemic came, and as a speaker, all of my events got canceled.
Yeah.
Thankfully, virtual speaking was a thing, and that really helped. But at the same time, we also consider opening other sources of income, other businesses, etc. And now this year, I launched something really exciting. I launched a membership, a community. And so we launched in April. I thought I was going to have around maybe 100 members. That was my goal, to get 100 people to join my membership. And we got over 500 in 1 week.
Nice.
Like in 5 days, we got 500 people to join. At this point, now in September, we are almost 1,000 people. We're like 900
What?
something in the membership. It's
Wow.
insane.
That's me
But it-
starting the clap for Michelle. See, you know, yeah, see, just putting my resume, you know, again.
Thank you. And then that really changed my life, because now I had to hire more people to maintain the community, to like a marketing team to grow it, and copywriters, designers, assistant, community
Nice.
managers, all of that. And like I've been experiencing a lot of like stress lately, and becoming a leader of a community like this. It's a new, you know,
Yeah.
and it's new
Nice.
challenges and all of that. So now I'm like, I feel like I'm either growing this community in the next years, or not, or downsizing. So I go back to what I had before, because it was like easier.
I have a lot of questions here. So first and foremost, what's the community called? And then do you have like, what do you provide to the community? Do you have live meetings? Is there any sort of, religious songs? Like, like what kind of community is this?
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of girls, women that
Okay.
want to pursue their own definition of success and achieve that just like I have. So I'm like their role model, and I'm teaching them how to be their most authentic selves, and achieve what they actually want, not what society expects of them, but what they want from themselves. And the community is called Créetelo. It's in Spanish. And Créetelo means believe it, just because that's where it all starts. And if I can do one thing for other people, is help them see their own worth. I feel like that's the best thing I can do for them. And like the one thing I'm really good at is helping people see their own worth, and see that they're already enough, and that they have what it takes in order to pursue what they want. That's like a big realization, that without that, you're hardly getting anywhere in life, because if you don't believe it, you're not going to pursue it. And so first you have to believe it, and then I give them like the inspiration, like the motivation, the mindset, and then all the tools, everything. I share literally how I did everything in my life to create my own personal brand and launch that to the world.
Wow.
Powerful.
Powerful. And how much of this kind of comes back to your sort of fears work and sort of that project? Is that sort of like part of the sort of beginning of the work that you do to help people, or is it like kind of moving beyond that a little bit?
So it's definitely a start, because without the right mindset, without the courage, you're not going to get far in life. You have to first like dominate your fears, and feel confident about who you are, trusting yourself, reframing how we perceive the fear of failure and rejection. Those are the two biggest things that keep us from actually becoming our authentic self. And so that's the first thing that I try to like help my members is with the courage. And after that, I go into the authenticity part, and it's all about understanding who you are as a person, accepting and embracing that, being so comfortable with who you are that you become unapologetically you. And then like, that's what you pour out into the world, who you really are on the inside, put it out into the outside. And from there, we're ready to talk about how to create your brand starting from there. So
Nice. Kevin, do you think we should sign up? Do you think we can?
I mean, I could
access
use.
our
I could certainly use that.
Yeah, this sounds like all stuff that I'm searching for and I need. I have to learn Spanish. It sounds.
yeah, exactly. First, you have to like learn Spanish for first step.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a roadblock for me, a pretty large one. Kevin, how's your Spanish?
It's been
Bien?
better.
I'll bring the name. At least you can read the name of the.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Whoa,
Oh, you were not sure.
That's
Creatello.
awesome.
You have so many props in your little
I know.
Zoom room.
This actually goes. This goes here.
Okay. Oh shit.
Yeah.
So for the
Wow.
listeners at home, Michelle has like this decked out sort of like Zoom conference room where she can just stick things to walls and sort of do promo for all of her businesses.
I normally take it out for English speaking, like either
Yeah.
virtual speaking or podcast, but I'll just keep it there.
That's
And
awesome.
where are you living these days? Because I know you were a nomad for quite a bit. I think a little bit even before COVID, you were kind of just living, on the land. So where is home based? Yeah,
Kind of a digital nomad pioneer, if you will.
that's true.
It's true. So I started in New York when I did the project and all of that. And then we decided to become nomads when I was already speaking a lot. So we were never in New York. And my husband was like, why are we paying rent in a city like New York? Makes no sense. We're still paying taxes though in New York, but at least we're not paying the rent. So we became nomads for a full year. And then I really missed New York. I was like, I feel part of me is in that city, so I need to go back. We moved to Williamsburg. I was so happy there for 2 years. And then at the beginning of 2020, before the pandemic hit, we were like, oh, maybe we should relocate to Miami before I launch my book. So I don't have to move in the middle of launching a book. And then we think about family. So we were thinking already about becoming parents. So we moved to Miami in February. And then in March, everything shut down. And we were just so happy. We were in Miami. Sunny weather, a pool, bigger, more space. So that's where we spent the pandemic. And here we are. We bought this house. This is my studio. Maybe you can see.
Wow.
A little bit.
Sick.
Maybe you
got
can
your
see.
Wheaties. You got your drawing table.
Yeah.
You got a ring light. You're just just a one woman machine, and now a leader
With a team.
with a team.
Yeah, not with a team.
And
How
a
big is your
subscription-
team?
Subscription model? Is this a subscription model sort of community?
Yeah.
This is sick.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
you've now inspired me. Unfortunately, I have no one signed up to my subscription model for how to be a badass boss designer. So
I would sign up for that.
I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I'm
Give it
now
to-
inspired. Paywall is what I'm thinking here, Kevin. What do you think?
I'm into it.
Yeah,
So we have
I
7
think-
people now in the team.
that's 7 people on the
Wow.
Michelle Polar's team. Congratulations, that's super fun.
Plus the marketing team, that they have like 5 other people, but it's different. But yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
Well, congratulations. That's really exciting. And obviously, like I was telling Kevin a little bit before the show, not to make this all about me, but that's kind of what I do here. I remember meeting you and you were in the middle of this project and you were like, check out some of my videos. And I went on YouTube and I remember distinctly watching like 2 or 3 of them and being like, wow, I'm still watching these. Like I'm actually finding them entertaining and like inspiring and I remember you were shooting and editing all of this by yourself. And I was like, man, this is really good because listen, I've been a mentor at the School of Visual Arts for 7 years now, and 100 Days is an amazing project. I thought your project was from that first time I saw it, I was like, whoa, this feels on another level. We're talking about like editing and making content. And then obviously like the whole concept of you conquering your fears was pretty fucking smart and also just really made for some really solid videos.
Yeah, very compelling.
Compelling stuff. And I remember being like, I think she's got something here. And then next thing I know, I look up and you're on the Today Show. You're with like AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. You know, it's like you're just like, you know, talking about this amazing project. And so like take me back to that like moment when you're just like all of a sudden go from like this is a fun little, you know, student project where I'm making these videos to like, oh my God, press and people are like, you know, trying to, you know, I'm doing interviews on television programs. Like, what was that sort of whirlwind like at that moment? Like, what did that feel like?
I have to say, you were the first one to believe in me, and like,
oh man, clap for me. Yeah.
I remember I went to that conferences, the conference, the How conference. I saw it was my first conference in my life. I've never been to a conference before. Like, you know, I come from Venezuela. I moved here for college. After college, I started working in advertising. I was at YNR. And then I started the program, the SVA branding program. And then we are invited to go to a How conference. And I was like, this is so new to me. I started seeing people on stage and speaking. And I started seeing like, oh, I could speak like that. I could be on stage too. One day, why not? You know, I can be an expert on these topics. There was one talk about public speaking. And I didn't think the speaker was really good. I'm like, she's talking about public speaking. She's not that good. Maybe I can be a public speaker.
Who was it? Put her on blast.
Yeah. Name names. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But it was inspiring to see her. I'm like, I can do that. I saw you were really good, really entertaining. I connected a lot to what you were saying. I saw Simon Sinek that day. He was really good. Brené Brown, like a lot of amazing speakers. And I was in the middle of a project. I decided to face a few fears there. Like I challenged myself to meet like all the speakers, approach them. You know, that's a fear. Like people don't approach the speaker. Like a lot of people don't, even though they want to. They're like, I don't have anything interesting to say. It will be awkward. So I am the person that I would not approach speakers. But I was like, I'll do it as a challenge. So that's how I met you. And I met Jessica Walsh. And I met like all these amazing speakers that day. And you were like, the next day I saw you and you're like, hey, your videos are actually cool. And I was like, oh, it meant so much. Like it made me believe in myself, the fact that you thought that. So I was like, yes, I have something. And that was like a week after this went viral. It was like that crazy. And it, you know, I dreamed about going viral and being famous my whole life. I was like, one day I'll be very famous. People will know my name. But when it happened, it was like I didn't experience fulfillment as I thought I would. Yeah. That was interesting because I was like, okay, I'm everywhere. I'm seeing my face. You would open Snapchat and go to like CNN channel and my face would be there. Like, I was like, this is insane. People tagging me all over. People telling me my friend in Spain is hearing your name in the radio. People are naming you everywhere in Taiwan. Like, and I was like, I don't feel the fulfillment I thought I would when I become famous. So, and then it was interesting because what gave me a lot of fulfillment was the messages from people getting inspired. So I started getting a lot of messages in my YouTube videos and people I don't know. And they were like, this is so inspiring. I want to go out and face my own fears. Or Michelle, you inspired me to face my fear today. And I was like, wow, that feels cool to inspire other people. And that's something I never thought that I could do or consider doing. So then I realized this is the coolest thing about being famous is actually inspiring other people and not just being on camera.
So it was really what you took away was like, it didn't feel like how you dreamed it would feel. And I think that's something that I think about a lot. Like I'm by no means famous whatsoever, but when I do think there's a great quote from Jim Carrey said that like, I wish everyone could get rich and famous so they could find out basically that it's not what they ever dreamed of. And I think that's like, for me, again, I think that about success in general, not just being like rich or famous, just being successful, because I do think a lot of people think that that's going to sort of like fulfill them in a way that I don't necessarily think that it ever really does. And I think anytime I've had that, anything that I felt like success, it would quickly, to your point, come and I'd be like, yeah. And then it very quickly disappears. And you're like, oh man, like that didn't change anything. It just made me feel good for a very short hit of feeling. And so what you found is what I think is probably the most inspiring, or what people should know is like helping other people actually is the thing that does feel good.
Yeah.
And paying it forward and, you know, truly making a difference in people's lives. That is a far better feeling than anything that would be selfishly for yourself.
And also, you would think, to add to that, that inspiring strangers feels amazing. Like people that you don't know, but they know you for some reason because you're like out there. But you know what feels even better? Inspiring and changing the lives of people closer to you. After inspiring hundreds of thousands of people, the ones that matter the most to me are the lives that I changed, that are like my friends, my parents, my brother. Whenever I know that some of them saw my content and did something different and changed their life, that is the highlights of like my year.
That's super interesting. I don't think I've had any of that effect on anyone.
No,
None of my friends or family or even Kevin. Yeah. And none of the people actually employ.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, me.
I've changed Kevin's life for the better. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Question, Michelle, like, so when you started the project, obviously you were, came from a place of understanding that you were very fearful. How much of that comes from sort of like your youth, how you were raised, not to go again, all therapy on you, but like you grew up in Venezuela, right? You didn't grow up in America. I believe you're Jewish, right? I'm also a Jewish person.
Yeah.
How much of that, like, I always say the reason why I'm anxious is because I've equated my anxiousness with my New York Jewishness. Like, how much of your, like, how you were raised, do you think made you sort of like fearful of life? Like once you were sort of like, came to New York for the first time?
Yeah. So I think I have already gave too much thought to this topic. Yeah. And I do believe that my fears come from the Holocaust, like all the way, because my grandparents had to go through the concentration camps, had to experience that, live that. My uncle, my grandma, my grandpa, all of them, they were able to escape. And then they moved to Venezuela, which is a very random country for them. They had to learn the language, and they lived with fear their entire life, thinking that the worst can actually happen because they experienced it. And that's how they raised my mom, who was born in Venezuela after the war. And, I have all of that in my genes. And I've been hearing the stories since I was very little. I went to Jewish school. So every year we have, we hear the stories, we bring survivors to share the stories, and it's very terrifying. So I grew up thinking and understanding that those things can happen at any point. And when you're the most comfortable, somebody can come and take you away from your home, from your family. And so I grew up with knowing that. And I think that had an influence, like a really big influence in my life. Also seeing my mom being fearful, and so cautious of things. And it's not her fault. It's just the way she was raised. And then also living in a country like Venezuela, where there's a lot of insecurity in the streets. Since I was very little, they're all the time like, put your window up, this is not a safe area, or you can't even walk in the street. Like and I would come to the United States every year, and I would see the contrast. So I understood, like, this is not normal. This just where, I don't know why my parents choose to live here. Now I see there are a lot of like also positive things, and I miss that. But yeah, it was very different.
Were there a lot of Jewish people in Venezuela, like growing up?
Only like 24,000.
Okay. So that's not a ton.
No, it is a lot. It
is a lot. I don't know. That feels like, again, I grew up in New York, so I'm like, that sounds like not that many, but like, I guess
that's like a very close community. So it's like in my school, we were, 100 kids per class. And, so that was pretty good for me. Like, my entire world was like very Jewish growing up. So
did you go to high school there?
Yeah.
Nice. And so you said you came to the US a little bit. It's not that far, actually. I was,
it's like 2 hours.
Yeah. It's not that long a flight. So was SVA the first time you ever lived in America, or you had lived there before?
No, I came for college in 2007. I went to study at SCAD in Savannah, Georgia.
Got it.
Okay. So it's their graphic design and art direction. Graduated, got married that year in 2011 to Adam, and then moved to Miami. Lived 3 years in Miami, and then I was like, I'm done. I need to move to New York City. I need to do something else with my life. And that's when I went to SVA.
Nice. And so for you now, this whole new career opens up, and you are sort of, like you said, immediately on TV. And then speaking engagements came like pretty, like to me, I think actually watching your sort of evolution, like of how you were turning this into a business and a life and a career. Speaking engagements quickly became like the first thing. And the next thing I know, you're on stage. And I mean, not just on stage, I mean, in front of crowds like 8, 10,000, 4,000 people, it seemed like, at these giant arenas. So I was like, whoa, again, having, seen you do television, I was like, what the, like, holy shit, this blew up. And then next thing I know, you're like dancing and performing and like doing your talks in front of giant crowds. Is that terrifying? Because public speaking, I've done a lot of it over the last 10 years. I did a talk yesterday in front of like 50 people and I was still nervous. Like I still get nervous every single time I'm about to hand it a microphone and a clicker. Do you get nervous still?
Well, I have to say, I get more nervous with smaller audiences. Like you
Interesting.
50 and I'm shaking. Like I don't want to do 50. I need thousands to be calm. Like on the inside, I'm like, okay, 30,000. This is much better. No, but I like to see like large crowds more than having few people closer to me. I don't know why. That seems more intimidating to me than like larger crowds. And it all depends. Like, yes, I still get nervous sometimes, but it depends. The level of nervousness depends on the crowd. For example, if you put me in front of, like last year, I did 1,000 men in the oil industry. I was very nervous. Like, I don't know why. And it was an experiment. Like even the board that chose me as a speaker, they were very nervous. They were like, we don't know what we're doing. Why? And they're like, we're trying something new. And then it was amazing. I had all of them dancing by the end and huge line, to talk to me. And the organizers told me like, they never approach a speaker. This has never happened before. This is the first time we see a line at one of these events. So seeing those things help me calm down next time that I need to talk to a crowd like this. Of course, I've done already hundreds of speeches in front of all different crowds. So I am not nervous anymore. If you put me in front of like all women, I am definitely very comfortable and excited and not nervous at all. It all depends. Like if I go to a very conservative place, for example, or, I don't know, places where I don't feel they will relate that much to me, then that makes it a little bit harder. But also it's because I've been delivering my same talk, which is called Fear Less, Do More, for the last 8 years. So
you know it. You got it down.
Yes, I can tell you my entire thing, thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow next. So that's easy, but now I built a new talk. So every time I have to deliver that one, I get really nervous every single time because I don't know it by heart. I have to really think about it. I'm more nervous and I don't know how people will react. Now with the courage one, I know exactly when they're going to laugh, cry, get emotional, get excited, dance. I know everything. But for the new one, I'm still testing that out. The new one is about personal branding, and it's called Irreplaceable, like how to become irreplaceable by owning who you already are and not trying to be anybody else. And then now I'm building a new one, and that's very scary to build one from scratch. Also, because now I compare the new one to what I already have, and what I have is really good. Like the bar is really high, so nothing kind of competes to that. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's like being a comedian. Like at some point you have to like throw out your material and sort of build a new hour. And I still have bits and images and slides that like I've been doing for 10 years now, and I'm terrified of throwing them away. Not just because like I know I should, but then it's like I know they work, right? I know that they're gonna get that laugh that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw it away just because you're bored of it. Like if the audience haven't heard you, it's worth keeping. I've been saying the same jokes for 8 years and people still laugh out loud.
Play the hits. Yeah, play the hits.
And, yeah, exactly. So no need to change that.
Do you always open up your speaking engagements coming out and dancing?
Yes, I always start dancing. And the reason why I do that is because I want to get the audience very uncomfortable. Because I want to talk about the comfort zone. So the best way is to get them uncomfortable so they experience what the comfort zone feels like. So I start dancing reggaeton, like all out. I am like, everybody, and they don't stand up ever, unless it's like a very specific kind of crowd, like network marketing crowds. They always stand up, but the rest of them, they don't. And they're all so uncomfortable. And they're thinking, poor girl, nobody's dancing with her. I feel so bad. I'm like, come on. And they don't, sometimes they clap. I'm like, no, no clapping, dancing, no. And then I'm like, raise your hand if you thought that was awkward. And everybody raises their hand and laugh. I'm like, great. That was the whole point. You didn't have to dance.
That's wild. Like, that's so brave. Like, honestly, like the idea of dancing and like coming out and doing something like big, like a big number and something that just only makes you look like a fool. and then just like setting yourself up for that every single time is that's so crazy. I could never fucking do that. So
I will send
admire
you a
you for
video
doing
of
that.
how awkward it looks. I now show that at the beginning of the presentations where I know people will dance. I'm like, this is how it normally goes. And
Yes.
I show when everybody's looking at me like this. And then one person stands up and dances, and that's it.
And then Kevin, you're right. So like at the end, everyone dances, and then it's sort of like this like full circle.
Yeah, full
sort of
circle.
Full
experience.
circle.
We love a
Yeah,
full circle.
exactly.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I've done some like things in my speaking career where like I'll start off with like a bit of some sort. I'll be like, I remember I was like in Minnesota. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do a montage of all these like Minnesota greats, and I'll come out to music, and like it totally bombed. It was like 9 a.m. in the morning, and people just weren't here for it, and like it just totally threw me off for the whole talk. And I think about it a lot. So I think it's incredibly brave that you come out and like purposely like make yourself look and feel uncomfortable. That's probably the absolute last thing that I would do. I do the opposite, which is like show a joke right away that I know people will laugh.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you're different. You're built different, Michelle. Question. What's the weirdest place you've ever done a talk?
Okay. A race track for
Okay.
like horses, I think,
Okay.
or cars.
Whoa.
I don't know, but racing there.
Yeah.
And this is the worst experience I've had as a speaker. It was for high school kids or like middle school. I don't know. And then it was at noon, in the middle of the day, in the middle of summer, and they all had to be seated outside in the bleachers. Yes. The sun hitting them. And then my presentation, which I rely a lot on my presentation because I share all these videos about me facing my fears. If without those, there's no point of my presentation. That was in a billboard, like so far that people couldn't even see that. And I had a tiny stage. And then in the middle of the talk, they decided that it was too hot and they went all the way up to the one that was like in the upstairs. I don't know. And it was like in the shade. And they were just talking amongst themselves. And I had to continue for like a full hour, my presentation. I had 3 girls in the front and that's it. So at least 3 people got inspired, I think.
Yeah, that's so horrifying. Like I haven't had too many total bomb like moments, but like there's nothing worse than like when you're on stage and you're talking and someone's like, you see someone like get up or walk away or sort of be like, yeah, I'm not feeling this. Like, and it's soul crushing because you're putting your heart out there and you just, you try to focus on the 3 people that are enjoying it. That's always what I say.
What I do is how I talk to myself in that moment. So if somebody stands up, I could tell myself, oh, I'm doing a bad job. Like this person is so bored, he's leaving. Or I tell myself he needs to go to the restroom really fast. Like something's really wrong at this point. Poor person. Or his wife is texting him like, I need to talk to you urgently. Or that's what I tell myself when this happens. So at least that gives me mental peace.
Which is like, again, it's just, that's so much inner will. I guess that's what you teach people in your course is like how to have that inner sort of like strength, because I think that's what even, again, like people that have speaking careers or success in any way, it's still no matter what, like it will, you can like, people always say like the one comment on an Instagram post, even if you have thousands of people that say, oh my God, this changed my life, I love it so much. And the one person said, yeah, I kind of found it to be boring or something, like that will sit with you. So I admire you for your inner strength. I guess now that you've spent 8 years conquering fears, like, are there things that you like want to do that you still feel like you haven't done yet? Obviously you just had a kid, so that's obviously a big part. Do you have like new fears that unlock as a mother, or sort of now that you've had like this whole career, like what keeps you up at night now?
Well, thinking about a second kid, because when you don't have any and you think about the first one, you have no idea what that means. Everybody can tell you and you can see it from other people, but until you experience it yourself, you don't know what it feels like to be a parent and you don't know how you will feel about it. And so after you have the first one, now you know everything. So it's even harder for me to make the choice now to have a second one, because even though I am completely in love with being a mom and it really changed my life to the positive, and I feel like the luckiest to be Noah's mom. He's like the most awesome kid that I've met. Makes me so proud. And like I don't know, I'm like so happy about it. But at the same time, my career, I had to step back in my career for at least a year and a half, 2 years. That all I wanted to do was just be a mom. So it took me around 2 years to want to go back and, fight for what I believe in and create my next kind of content and go back to stage and all of that. And then it was hard. It was like a really 2022 for me was like one of the hardest years of my career, because it was that time where I'm like, oh, I already spent a full year with my baby. I enjoyed it so much, so I don't regret it. But at the same time, I left everything. Like so my engagement went down, everything went down. And I was like, wow, who am I without all these things? And, so now thinking about a second baby, because we do want to expand the family, it's a little bit scary, because I'm like, now yes, I want my girl at some point, but at the same time, I don't know, like taking a step back again. I don't feel like taking a step back. I'm like now thriving again. I want to continue that. So that's challenging. And as far as like other kinds of fears, there's one that I never did, and I don't know if I'll do. I'm curious, but at the same time, I'm very fearful of that. And it's traveling by myself to like Europe or something like that, like going abroad by myself for fun, like not for a speech or something like that. Even for a speech, I don't travel by myself. I always bring somebody with me. So
yeah,
loneliness.
No, I mean, it makes it makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously to do all the things that you've done, like obviously you're incredibly driven. So, I think about this a lot too. It's like, it's hard to turn that switch off, because obviously that's what got you here and got you to sort of all the success. And so, putting your family first is something that I imagine, for someone who obviously enjoys what they do and loves, sort of all this amazing new life that you've built for yourself. Like, I imagine it's hard to step away from that. And I imagine it's probably hard to step away from it, come back, and then step away from it again.
Yeah.
So before we get you out of here, Michelle, personally, I just want to sort of talk a little bit about comfort.
Okay.
So for me, I find that getting outside of my comfort zone, I've done it a couple times. I do find it to be fun, but for the most part, I think it's overrated. I think where it's really at is sweatpants, ice cream, Netflix, couch, comfort. Why should I embrace the uncomfortable when the comfortable is just so goddamn delicious?
So it all depends on your level of ambition and the things you want to accomplish in your life and your purpose. When you are so aligned to your purpose, then it's like all the fears and everything else there. I don't know, it goes down the level of everything, because that's where you're like so aligned to what you want to do and what you feel like your soul has a purpose and is here for that, your mission. That's what matters most. So what I want to say is like, it's okay to be comfortable in some aspects of your life, but not in the aspects that are like limiting you from becoming who you want to be. And a lot of people are comfortable and they're not happy. So I think the biggest thing we can learn from this is that there's a huge difference between happiness and comfort, and that we sometimes pursue comfort thinking that it will bring us happiness. And then when you get there, you're like, is this what life is about? So do I do this every day? What else? And that's kind of what happened to me. And that's why I moved to New York in the first place and decided to do the 100-day project and all of it, because I was so comfortable. I was 24, 25 years old. I was already living in a very nice building in Miami, in a really nice area. I had a really good job in advertising. I was married already. I'm like, I check all the boxes. Now what?
Yeah.
I was like, do I have kids, buy a home and die? Like, I don't get it. What's next? Like, what, how do I feel the rest of my years? And then I'm like, no, I need to think about what makes me uncomfortable and at the same time fulfills me. And it was like, oh, I need to move to New York. That's the one thing I wanted to do for my entire life, and I am ignoring that. So I'll do that. I want to study branding, which is new for me, all these things. And then when I did the project, I had two options again, comfort or growth. That's how I see life, comfort or growth. So comfort in that way for me was finding another job. All my friends that went to SVA with me started applying to the companies I wanted to work for. They were all getting all the jobs at all these amazing branding companies. And I was like, I came to New York to apply for those jobs. But now I did a project and went viral. And I have an opportunity here that is very different from the rest. And I have two options. I could just ignore that and go and apply for the jobs that I thought I wanted, or I could follow my own path, become an entrepreneur. Nobody will tell me if it's right or wrong, what's the next step, anything. I just have to figure that on my own. And so I got uncomfortable to choose growth. But there are other areas in my life that I still find comfort, and I'm fine with that. Like I'm saying, I travel with somebody to all of my talks. I don't want to get uncomfortable like that because I love spending time with other people. I love exploring cities. I don't want to be the speaker that travels by herself, goes back to her room, orders food. No, I mean, like wherever I am.
That's what I'm into. That's what I'm into. Yeah. Going back to the room, ordering some room service by myself, watching a movie. Yeah, that's my speed.
And for example, this is like the perfect example. Let's say I deliver a speech, and now I want to explore the city, go out to the best restaurant, but the client asked me to go to their party, like their event with their audience. And I'm like, okay, my comfort is telling me to go to the restaurant. I already made reservations and got excited about their fried rice or whatever. Like I'm excited about that. But my growth is telling me that if I go to the party, I might meet interesting people. I might have really interesting conversations. I will, make connections. This can bring my speech to the next level because I will hear feedback from. So even though it's uncomfortable, I like turn the wheel and go into the growth. And then I never regret choosing growth. Never.
So what you're saying is I should try it. I should try, maybe going outside, maybe doing other things other than working and sleeping. And, when someone says, hey, do you want to go get dinner? I should say yes, instead of staying at home and just kind of saying, it's much more fun not going out on a Saturday night.
Oh,
is that what you're saying?
We're gonna be friends. I love to go out and
I don't know, Michelle. Like I hear what you're saying, but part of me is like, not for me. It's not for me.
But it's interesting because I'm married to an introvert. So Adam is more of an introvert, and I'm all the time like, we should meet new people. This person wrote me on Instagram and wants to go have dinner. We should go with them. And Adam's like, but we already have friends. But I'm like, we don't know the kinds of doors that this new friend can open. Like
Adam seems really smart. See, this is my kind of guy right there. It's the kind of guy that's like, you know what? I have 8 friends. You know what? That's fine. I met them in 2002, and I'm good. I passed my quota of friends. Like, what could possibly, happen tonight that couldn't happen, here on my couch at home?
Yeah. Well, I think every person is like a new door that you like open a world of possibilities. And that's for me what life is about. It's like, if you read my book, you should. It's here. You have it.
I do have it. Yes.
Yes. So
send me a copy.
First chapter, it's about how to stop living in autopilot. And is this the first? Yeah. And live a more like fulfilling life, because at the end of the day, memories that we create are like, the way I see them is like boxes. So when you do the same thing every single day, it's just one box. And if every day you do something different, you create little boxes. So when you look back and you say, oh, where did the year go? It's because you did the same thing every day. So you're looking back and you see one memory, one box, everything looks the same. But when you look back and you did all these different things, you're like, whoa, this year felt like so long. And it's because you have all these little memories in there. It's like when you travel in 1 week, you're like, what? We've been traveling only 1 week. This feels like so long. And it's because you did a lot of things. So
wow. You're making some compelling arguments. I'll take them into consideration, but I'm perfectly fine just checking that same box every single day. And Michelle, I'm really I'm starting to feel like maybe Maybe I should. Maybe I should, as Kevin says, touch some grass and
I
sort
need
of
some more
meet some
boxes.
yeah, I need some more boxes. But I honestly I do think like a lot of people are like me. I am a natural introvert, and anytime that I am pushed to do something that involves me getting out of my comfort zone, it is really tough, and it is actually really difficult, and I get scared and nervous, and sometimes parties or new places like uh is very uncomfortable for me, and I'm honest about that. And I do think there's a lot of me out there, and I
Mhm.
think for those people, I think Michelle is a perfect coach for how to break out of your shell. And when when you experience more, you see more, you'll probably be a little bit happier. But for me, I'm not willing to take that risk. Not quite yet. Do you think that COVID has had a big influence on that? Because I think for people like me that were totally comfortable in our box, my one box, which is again sweatpants, Netflix, blanket, couch, like quarantine made that like totally like acceptable. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was like Christmas. I was like, oh my God, like I don't have to go anywhere. I have a perfect excuse to stay home every weekend for months and months at a time. And honestly, like I do think that it had an effect on society. I think leaving the house and going to that event or going to that dinner or sort of going on that trip feels much more like a chore in 2023 than I think it felt in 2019. Do you find that people are feeling that way?
I don't know. I don't feel like I've had this conversation that much. All I can talk about is from experience and like my experience and my husband. So we
Yeah.
have both the introvert and the extrovert. And I remember how happy he was during the pandemic too. He was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I hope this never ends."
Yep.
I'm like, I was like, it for me was so challenging to like give up on traveling, meeting people, gathering, and now I see that a lot of people were craving connection more than ever before. But of course, I don't know about introverts. Like I know from what I know
You're like,
and
oh man, I hope COVID comes back and we can do that all again. What a
oh
joy!
my
No,
God.
I
Well,
think I think
yeah.
you're right. Like there are, I think about this a lot. There is a ton of people out there that those were major years of their life. Like those were sort of like, high school, like
Mhm.
prominent years or, years in, sort of college that, they were stuck inside. And I think for me as an older person, not that old, but like old, like where like, losing a couple of years of my life in my 30s wasn't like I could be happy about that because I am someone that likes to stay inside. But like for those kids and for those people that were sort of in, younger part of their, those are their teenage years or their early 20s. And I do think there's a desire to like get back out there. And I think that's why you see like concerts and sort of experiences like people are flocking and tickets are just selling. And so I think it works both ways where I do think there are a lot of people that are now like leaving the house feels more difficult, but also there's a lot of people that want to get out there. So I imagine this is good for Michelle Polar Inc. Is you help people find themselves out of, get out of the house.
Whatever your fear may be,
Yeah, whatever your fear may be,
you'll find an
Michelle's
answer there.
got you. She's got a
Yeah.
subscription model. Do you make all of your community members wear the same color? Because I have some ideas for branding. You can really
Okay,
kind of
this is interesting. When I did my own speaking in like event, because normally you don't do your own speaking event, like you just get invited. But I did
sure.
one here in Miami because I'm devoted to branding. That's what I love the most in this world. So I
Sure.
was like, I need to brand my own event. Like this needs to happen. I need to see like challenge myself to do this beautiful branding. And so I put together an event for 500 people in Miami. This was in May. And the funniest thing is like the people that went to my event, they all sort of dress like me. So it was like Michelle's, 500 Michelle's, and my family was like in shock, and everybody else was
Michelle
like,
Fest.
"What is happening? Why is everybody wearing your same clothes?" And so they were all wearing jackets, but very colorful. And I was like, "Where's that from? Where's that from? I want to buy this." I now even check the photos from my event to see the outfits of people because I love them so much, and it's exactly what I would wear. But yes, it's like, I don't know, like a pandemic of Michelle out there somehow.
That sounds like a positive thing, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, again, and it's spreading a positive message, when it gets dark, like again, I've watched too many Netflix documentaries about weird communities and cults. So no, I know but your cult is of kindness and conquering fears and to help people get out of their comfort zones and do that thing that they don't want to do because it's going to lead to more box checking, it's going to lead to more engagements, it's going to lead to more friends, it's going to lead to more conversations, and you're going to get better for it. I don't know if it's for me, but it sounds like a pretty exciting thing. Michelle, thank you for coming to our show, and we really appreciate your time. Before you go, do you have anything that you want to plug? Do you have anything that you want to where can people follow you? Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Threads, TikTok? Where are we at?
Instagram at Hello Fears, because if you go to at Michelle Polar, you'll find my Spanish account. So if you know Spanish, great. Very active there. If not, then Hello Fears will do. And definitely get the book. This one is a new version. It's the paperback version. So I'm wearing a pink jacket, and it has a new chapter there about abundance. Called Hello Abundance is my favorite chapter. So I'm very excited. You'll see this on airports all over the country very soon. So, yep, that's a new thing.
Amazing. Kevin, any questions before we get out of here?
I actually have 2 questions.
Yes.
First off, what is your go-to walkout song?
Dura. So Daddy Yankee.
Okay, great. And
There we
then
go.
the second question is, going back to your 100 Fears project, I noticed that you had great success in most 100 of your activities that you chose. The one that you maybe struggled the most with was eating an oyster. The question is, have you come around on oysters? Do you eat them?
Where are we at with oysters?
Yeah, where are we at?
No, so I tried them for the first challenge, vomited them. I didn't like them at all. And then years later, I had to go to this event, and the founder of the company invited me to a restaurant and gave me oysters in purpose. He was like, I know you don't, but I know you face your fear. So here's a poached oyster. So I tried it again, hated it again, never tried it again.
Never again.
The seafood. Yes. No, not happening again.
Not a big seafood enjoyer?
No, I don't like to see the animal in front. I like when you eat chicken, you don't see the actual chicken. You just see the breast there. When you eat meat or whatever, you don't see the animal. So the seafood, seeing tentacles and antennas.
That makes total sense.
Yes, I'm not a fan of that and the seafood in general. So yeah, I'm keeping that out of my comfort life.
Michelle, we have this doc and it has all 100 days of your fears and then Kevin's notes. I almost kind of want to go through them with what he says about each one. I mean, he didn't review every single one of them, but he's got some notes and some questions. I don't know how much time we have, but he thought your stand-up comedy was pretty impressive. That's what it says.
Oh, good.
He thought your 5 minutes were pretty strong, and
the tight 5 was pretty tight.
He thought it was pretty tight. He said, "Any thoughts on getting back on stage?"
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I guess you're doing stand up.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. If you watch my presentation, you laugh throughout a lot because of the comedy. So it was I would say even one of the scariest fears that I faced doing stand up comedy. It was my first time doing it. I was not a speaker then. And having people pay to laugh, it's really uncomfortable because so, and I had my friend, have you heard of Joanna Hausman? She's a big comedian, also Venezuelan, but in New York, now LA. She checked my scripts and she approved it.
Do people need to eat more arepas? That's a question. That's a hard-hitting question.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
It's the best question you've asked. And it's the answer is yes. Arepas is better than tacos. So yes.
Yeah. I think most people Venezuelan food is really good, but I think the arepa is a really solid sandwich. I would argue it is a sandwich, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's on most people's radars. There's that one place in Brooklyn, Caracas, but it closed down.
Yeah, I know, but we need more places. In here in Miami, every 2 blocks you get arepa. So at least that's why I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
How lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough arepas here in New York, and
I
I
know.
think that's a crime.
It's sad. Mhm.
It,
But
it's-
yeah,
it makes me sad.
yeah,
well-
it should be those writers. Mhm.
Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the show. And honestly, I'm so proud of you. I know that's like a shitty, weird thing to say, but like, obviously, like, it's one thing to like have success, and it's another thing to sort of have this like wonderful viral moment and like turn that into a speaking career. But you've turned it into so much, and like you've really kind of continue to take it up a notch every single time, and find ways to just make the world a better place, and getting people like me that just want to stay inside actually feel comfortable that they can overcome those fears and they can feel better about and I think there's comfort in the fact that a lot of people feel like I do, which is those things, and it's not just like scared of flying or scared of, sort of like spiders or things like that or heights. Like it's really about sort of that feeling of being uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
for me, I genuinely feel that I live life that way. And I
Mhm.
do think, maybe it may be holding me back. So maybe you have found one more person that maybe you have influenced and could convince to do something crazy. And that's why tonight I'm going to go home. I'm going to put on my sweatpants and I'm going to order a pizza and I'm going to watch Netflix. And you know what? I'll think maybe next Friday.
No,
I'll
you
go do
chose
something.
comfort. That's the
right.
only thing. You'll know you chose comfort. You're like, okay, I'm good with comfort. That's it.
I guess that's true. It's like if you are choosing comfort, at least be aware. Be
Exactly.
aware that you're doing it and you're just wasting your life away checking one box every
Yeah.
single day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we're gonna end the show. Thank you, Michelle. One more
Thank
time.
you so much.
We're gonna clap for her, and I'll start the clapping. That's amazing. Thank you, Michelle. You're fantastic.
Thank you both so much.